Infidelity. Wow. It's a word that just hits you in the gut, right? It's one of the most painful things anyone can ever go through. So in this explainer, we're going to dig into the unwritten rules of a broken heart. We'll try to get a handle on what's really going on under the surface and maybe, just maybe, see a path toward healing. And it all comes down to this one question, doesn't it? The one that echoes in your head. Should I stay or should I go? It's the ultimate crossroads. You know the famous couples therapist Esther Perel? She says something so profound about this. She says there's no perfect answer because every single choice means a loss. You either lose the relationship you had, or you lose the future you thought you could have. It's a heavy thought. But honestly, we can't even get close to answering that big question until we figure out what we're actually fighting about in the first place.
All right, so let's get into it. What are we really fighting for? Because here's the secret about relationship fights. Most of them, the vast majority, aren't about what you think they're about. The thing you're yelling about, that's just a stand-in, a proxy for something way deeper, way more important.
Think about something as simple as doing the dishes. Come on, how many fights have started over dishes, right? Jay Shetty tells this perfect story about it. In his family, growing up, the rule was you eat, you relax, then you clean up. But in his wife's family, it was the total opposite. Clean up immediately, then you can relax. And this tiny little difference, it caused massive friction. And you have to ask why? Because it was never, ever about the dishes. The surface fight was about a chore, sure, but the real fight, that was about recognition. It was about respect. It was about feeling seen and valued. And that right there gets us to the absolute core of it all. Esther Perel nails it. She says that underneath almost every single argument, we're really wrestling with three massive things: power, trust, and value. The questions we're actually asking are, do I matter here? Can I count on you? Who has the say? And once you start seeing your fights through that lens, you realize you're not arguing about dirty dishes anymore. You're talking about the fundamental operating system of your relationship. So what happens when that entire system gets completely shattered by betrayal? Okay, so let's dive into the anatomy of betrayal. This is where we get into the crisis of infidelity itself. And to really get our heads around it, we got to start with what it even means.
So infidelity, it's so much more than just sex. At its heart, it's a breach of a contract. But not a written one, right? It's that unwritten, unspoken agreement every couple has about what emotional and sexual exclusivity looks like for them. And when that contract is broken, man, the feeling of betrayal is just devastating. The thing is, in our super connected digital world, the number of ways you can break that contract has just exploded.
Yeah, so cheating isn't just one thing anymore. You've got the classic sexual affair, which, as you can imagine, often brings up this intense anger and humiliation. Then there's emotional infidelity, building that deep, intimate connection with someone else. That one can spark this gnawing anxiety and jealousy. And now we've got this whole other category, virtual or online infidelity. This is a total modern minefield. One person might be thinking it's not real cheating, it's just online, while the other feels completely and utterly betrayed. It just goes to show how critical it is for couples to actually talk about this stuff and define what their own unwritten contract is. So the big question, why? Why do people cheat? Well, according to relationship expert Dr. Wendy Walsh, an affair is usually just a symptom of a much deeper problem. It could be about emotional neglect, that desperate need to feel seen, to feel like you matter to someone. Or maybe it's a way of lashing out, retaliation for anger that's been simmering for years. It could even just be boredom. But sometimes it's about something way deeper, like our attachment style. A deep-seated fear of being abandoned, or, ironically, a fear of getting too close, can drive a person to look for validation somewhere else. Okay, so knowing the why is important for sure. But we have to shift gears now and really look at the impact, the profound, devastating impact on the person who's been betrayed. Because we're not just talking about hurt feelings here. This is a genuine clinical trauma. The aftermath for the person who's been cheated on is, well, it's brutal. It's a living nightmare. They get these intrusive thoughts, like a movie of the betrayal playing on a loop in their head that they just can't turn off. They become hypervigilant, always on edge, scanning for the next threat. They're drowning in this cocktail of rage, shame, and overwhelming sadness. It even gets physical. Can't sleep, stomach's a wreck.
Their whole sense of who they are, their self-worth just gets completely shattered. And if you're thinking, wow, that sounds like an overreaction, trust me, it's not. In fact, there's a name for this. Experts call it post-infidelity stress disorder, or PISD. And the symptoms? They are an almost perfect match for what we see in post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Thinking about it as a legitimate trauma is the most important first step toward healing. It validates everything that person is feeling. It tells them you are not crazy, you are not overreacting, you are having a normal response to an abnormal event. And that helps them start to move past the self-blame.
All right, now, if you or anyone you know is going through this, listen up, because understanding this next idea is one of the most powerful, most empowering things you can possibly do.
Okay, so we tend to throw forgiveness and reconciliation into the same bucket, right? But they are not the same thing, not even close. Think of it like this. Forgiveness is an inside job. It's something you do for you. It's a gift you give yourself to let go of all that bitterness and pain. You can do it all by yourself, whether you stay with the person or leave. Reconciliation, that's an outside job. It's an optional path you can choose to try and rebuild trust with your partner, and that takes two.
But listen, there's a huge pitfall here, a major trap, and that's trying to reconcile before you've actually worked on forgiveness. If you do that, you're just locking yourself in a cage with the pain. You stay tethered to the betrayal and you can't move forward in a healthy way. That internal work of forgiveness, it absolutely has to come first.
So let's say a couple does decide to try. They choose the path of reconciliation. What does that actually look like? What does it take? I'll tell you right now, it's not just a simple apology and moving on. It's a complete teardown and rebuild.
For the partner who was unfaithful, the work is, well, it's massive, and it's non-negotiable. Step 1, take 100% responsibility. No excuses, no, yeah, but. Step 2, end all contact with the other person. Period. No exceptions. Then you have to embrace what's called radical honesty. We're talking passwords, schedules, total transparency. And you have to offer this stuff up voluntarily. Don't make your partner play detective. And finally, you have to just sit there and listen. Absorb their pain without getting defensive. Because trust isn't rebuilt with words. It's rebuilt with consistent, transparent actions, day in and day out.
And for the partner who was betrayed, your journey is all about healing yourself and taking your power back. First, you have to acknowledge the trauma. Your feelings are real. They are valid. Second, please seek professional support. You do not have to walk this path alone. Third, focus on self-care. It sounds cliché, but it's about reestablishing your routines, your sense of self, your worth outside of the relationship. And finally, be patient with yourself. So patient.
And speaking of patience, we need to talk about a realistic timeline. How long does this all take? Well, experts estimate it can take 18 to 24 months just to get through the initial crisis phase, a year and a half to 2 years. I know, that number is probably shocking to a lot of you, but it's so important to hear. It shows that healing from this kind of deep betrayal is a marathon, not a sprint. Knowing that can save you from a lot of extra frustration and disappointment.
So, after all of this, what's the big takeaway? It's this. Healing, whether you stay together or you go your separate ways, is never about going back to what was. It can't be. That old relationship, the one that existed before the betrayal, it's gone. The real goal, the real opportunity here, is to use this crisis as a catalyst, a chance to build something entirely new, right from the foundation up. Something more honest, more intentional, and, if both people do the work, maybe even something stronger.